Okay, before we get started, I do have to say that any the questions or answers to this interview is it's not um, from our lodge or the Grand Lodge. Is basically um, what do we Am I right, Alexander? I don't know.
The views and opinions are our own. It is not not the ones of our Grand Lodge or Lodge
All right,
or
thank you.
Supreme Council, anything of that nature.
Oh, so I should stay off of anything political?
Well,
And
this is
this
your
is,
interview. This is your interview, so you can
Hmm.
basically
Your
say,
opinion.
yeah.
I will speak to myself and to my thoughts as far as those can reach. Okay, I understand.
Yes, sir. All right. So, the person we interview is a classmate Douglas Downs. And good evening, classmate Douglas Downs. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, getting over a bug, but it's behind me now.
Yes, yes. Completely understand. I was actually sick during my birthday week. So I was down for about a week and a half. And yeah, but so I'm all right now.
You had the COVID?
I believe it was a COVID. The way I was sick, I couldn't really move. I was coughing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was sleeping a lot as well. But
The part that blew my mind was the 2 nights of extreme night sweats. I
oh
have not had night sweats like that in decades.
yeah, the colds out here are
Yeah.
serious.
Well, we're all here. Thank the Lord.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, the first question of our interview is why did you become a Freemason?
That is a simple question because my father is a Mason, my grandfather was a Mason. So by the time I could reach up to the kitchen table, I knew that I was facing 2 Masons. And when I looked at my grandfather, because that's who I spent more time at home with, and he was quite an individual, both in mental acuity, his memory. This is a man who was blind from before I was born. And what stunned me was his knowledge of so many things. And when we started talking openly about the Masonic order, he was forthright. And looking at the character of those 2 gentlemen, that cleared the path for me and made it evident that if I wanted to be the man I wanted to be, this is the path that I should follow.
Nice. That was
Can I just add a additional question? So they was always, like you said, forthright about being a Mason. Because I know sometimes family members, they will be Mason, but they don't discuss it, and sometimes people don't know. So they always like this or something to that effect.
Can you translate, Samuel? Are you getting a better reception than I'm getting?
uh, I think classmate Alexander was saying that not many family members they boast about being a Freemason, but was yours really like forefront about it?
Yes, both. My grandfather was, he always spoke about his life. He spoke about leaving the Barbados when he was a young man and coming to Canada and the challenges that he faced and what drew him into the order. And he was looking for brotherhood and he was looking for insight into his new community. And so he was in as soon as he could be in. And that was very early on, 1920s to be specific.
Wow, that's pretty nice. So, a little off the question again. How old was your father, grandfather when he became a Mason?
When I became a Mason or he became a Mason?
When he became a Mason, Freemason.
Uh, he would have been about 34, 33, 34.
Okay, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
pretty.
If memory serves, it was May 5th, of 1922.
Okay. And how old were you when you became a Mason or Freemason?
When I became a Mason, I was the age of majority, which is the first moment that I could be. And so I was 21. I passed my 21st birthday and I stepped into the fray.
Wow. Nice. Nice. Congratulations. So were you a part of pu- the the um the
Youth group.
yeah
Uh,
the Pythagoreans?
the youth group. Well, as I came through, I'm in Toronto and Eureka, and there wasn't a lot of individuals who were in my age bracket. Most of the class members that were going through the degrees at that time would have been a decade more senior to me. And I was the pup and the runt in the class.
Okay. Ooh. So what inspired you to become a Scottish Rite Mason?
That is inherent within the Masons that were in my family. We were all Scottish Rite. So there wasn't much of a choice that I was going to cross the street and go into another rite. My grandfather had a white cane and it had a long reach.
Hmm. I'm sure we know exactly what you're talking about. What Masonic houses do you belong to?
I belong to the Blue House and the Consistory.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's really, it almost seemed traditional. Like you are stern about where you want it to be.
I'm a different guy. And I guess from my earlier days talking with my grandfather, his view was that you could spend a lifetime on your first 3 degrees in the Blue House. And the more I spent time in my early days going to lodge, I felt that a lot of Masons didn't appreciate that. And that a lot of people have aspirations when they come into the Masonic order. They're looking to make connections. They're looking to utilize what it offers to them to move ahead in life. And that wasn't my introduction, and it has never been my motive. I'm a simple Mason, and I look to live my life in the appropriate manner and to aspire to the degrees and the lessons that have been given me.
Nice. That was very articulate, per se. So this next question, what is your favorite Masonic house or rite and why? I would say the Blue House or the Scottish.
I would say that we've answered that. It's the Blue House and the first 3 degrees. And if you can nail those down, everything else is taken care of.
Yeah, that is right. That is true. As we all know, the Scottish Rite is a pretty big house. It has a lot of information in it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, what is your profession?
My profession is instrumentation and control. I have my electrical degree. I'm an electrician. I'm fluent in electronics, instrumentation, pneumatics, hydraulics. I went to college for instrumentation and control, was hired out of college to go into the nuclear field by Ontario Hydro at that point. I stayed with them and commissioned 1 nuclear station and then moved on. It was in a small town and I couldn't stay there. And being who and what I was, it wasn't a good fit in a town of 5,000 people. So I left, I came back to the city. I completed my construction electrical certifications became a member of the IBW 353, and then focused on large projects, complex projects, basically revolving around instrumentation and control, process control, and yeah, the more complex, the better. So I've done umpteen chip plants. I've traveled in the United States under a green card for about 10 or 12 years. I did the Goldman Sachs building in Hoboken, New York. I've done the Intel chip plant in Hudson, Mass. IBM chip plant, 2 of them in Fishkill, New York. I've done several refineries in around Michigan, the Heinz Distribution Central Facility in Fremont, Ohio. So I've extensive experience in and around the United States, done a couple of university campuses, and but generally most people that know me grab me when they're looking at process control and complex systems. So after I did my stint in the United States, I came back to Ontario. I was grabbed by OPG, Ontario Power Generation, and I've spent the last 20 years at the Pickering Nuclear Station, which is pretty well the largest nuke station at that point in the world. A 8-unit nuclear station knocked down to 6 units. So that's the insight behind my career.
Okay. Very interesting. Very energetic, per se. What are your hobbies?
Hobbies are backpacking, canoeing, orientation, which is navigation in the outback. I'm a wine collector, so I'm known as an oenophile, and I also enjoy antiques.
Okay.
My favorite thing with antiques is chandeliers, or yeah, sort of, how do I put this? Different stones. Mostly when you look at chandeliers, like Tiffany's, you'll think of cut glass, and that never really caught my eye. So most of the ones that I collect or am drawn to are cut stone as opposed to cut glass.
Okay. Cool. Are you married? And if so, do you have children?
Never married, engaged one time, and no children. And I can pretty well assure you that there are no children.
Okay.
I don't leave town fast enough to leave without knowing.
Okay. What is the furthest you traveled or visit?
That would have been in 75. I was working in Alberta, in northern Alberta, with a company called Alberta Gas Trunk Line. And I was in Valley View, Alberta, which is about 200 miles northwest of Edmonton. And I packed my bags, and my father was going to a convention, and he said, "I've got the room. Do you want to join me?" And I said, "That'd be a lovely idea." And I left work finishing my stint on a Thursday, and Monday I was in New Orleans. So that was about as far as one could hitchhike at that point in time, from one end of the country down through the southern United States.
Yeah. Was that like a climate shock, or did you adjust to the temperature on time? Like, all right.
It was the end of the summer in Alberta, so with the longer days up there, it was totally fine in terms of weather. And it just got warmer and warmer as I moved towards New Orleans. So by the time I got to New Orleans, the toughest part about that was changing my shirt twice a day and running from pub to pub, or from any air-conditioned area to another air-conditioned area, so I wouldn't wilt.
Okay. Well, what is your most memorable moment?
In a Masonic context, I would say that trip, because when I got into the outskirts of New Orleans, I knew I was now looking for direction and needed assistance, and I stopped in at a gas station. And there was, the classic scene, hot bay, a few of the brothers sitting around outside in the gas station waiting for the next client to serve. And I walked up and I said, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get downtown to the Marriott?" And they all looked at me in a strange way, looking at this kid with a backpack. And one of them said, "Well, the Marriott, that's where the Masons are gathering." And I said, "Yes." And he looked at me and he said, "Are you a Mason?" And I said, "Yes, I'm a Mason." And he said, "Well, come with me." And it was a fellow, Brother Banks from New Orleans. And he took me, put me in his car, drove me down to the Marriott. And we got there and I walked up to reception looking for my father. And I asked him, "Where's Charles Arthur Downs?" And they said, "Sorry, he's not booked in this hotel." And Brother Banks said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I says, I don't know. And he says, "Well, you come with me. We'll find you a little motel, hotel, or whatever suits you. And then after that, I'll come back and I'll pick you up and you come over to my place. We'll have dinner and I'll give you a little tour of town." And that's what he did. And the next day, he brought me back and I'd finally tracked down, and now we're looking, and we're in the Marriott, and he's in casual dress and I'm in casual dress. And we can talk about the Masonic Brotherhood and we can talk about being Masons. And we got on the elevator and there was a couple of Masons decked out. And they were talking about, I won't name the temple. And I said, "Oh, I'm familiar with that temple. And I'm looking for people from that area. And maybe you could help me." And they looked at me and they looked at him. And I felt like a dentist pulling teeth. And they just let it slide and they sort of chagrin gave me a little nugget of information. And that was it. So we went on our way and we found a room, and it was a hospitality room. And lo and behold, there was my father, and he was standing with two heavyweights. So all I can say is the minimum on the caps was 3 pips that I saw.
Okay.
You with me?
Yes.
And these guys turned to Brother Banks and they embraced him. They recognized immediately what he had done, and they cherished him. And then a few minutes later, the 2 individuals that I'd seen in the elevator, they came by, and they were regular folk. And I turned to them and I said, "Oh, Dad, these are the 2 gentlemen that pointed me in the right direction for the information and to find you and this reception." And they looked at him. They looked at the other members assembled before them. And I think that life lesson is still with them, that we're all brothers. And the truly powerful Masons never forget that. Maybe that's how they get the levity to lift up and to move up through the ranks, that they have that humility, that they understand that they are standing on everybody else that has lifted them and provides them the support that they need. But that day, 2 days with Brother Banks, it reaffirmed and made a lasting impression as to what brotherhood means to me.
Yes.
Still brings a tear to my eye. Anyway, that's it.
And that's definitely a great story. Am I clear now? I hope so. I'm home.
Yes, you are.
All right, great.
It's you again. It's you.
Yeah. Now may I ask you a question? Because I know you said this is 1975 and you still remember Brother Banks' number. Name. Are you just good with names, or did this, that brother had that much of an impression on you?
He had that much of an impression on me that
Mm-hmm.
that his hospitality, being on his mother's sofa and rubbing my belly after having ham hock and beans, and not realizing how much it would expand after the second and a half portion, and then going out that evening and stopping off and having some shrimp fry. It was no, he was just a Blue House guy,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a mensch. He was the definitive Mason, and his name I can't forget. And I'm terrible at names.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Did you did you happen to keep in contact with him?
No.
Okay.
We conversed for a little while, and then there was a evaporation.
Hmm. Do you know what lodge he belonged to?
No, we never talked about that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm on my game. I was trying to find that man. Get me united. I love that story. That's nice.
Yes. He would be, I would say, about 8 years older than I am. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If he's still with us.
Okay. I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask the Louisiana Mason if they know older Brother Banks.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So what is your proudest moment as a Mason?
The proudest moment is probably getting my Louis Jewel and being the first in my jurisdiction to do that. This is one of the things that's sort of a pet activity within my family, is that if you're familiar with the Louis Jewel, if your Grand Lodge is accepting of the Louis Jewel and sanctifies it for your jurisdiction, then a Mason can wear it. And basically, it is the jewel that is worn by the Mason of a Mason.
The son of a Mason, right?
The son of a Mason. So it indicates the lifting that is done by the youthful Mason, because which I understood when it came in. I had already had 20 years or more. It came in our jurisdiction, I think, in 2002. So at that point, I had 25, 26 years as a Mason, and my father being a Mason, my father spent a lot of his time on the road and spent a lot of his time in service to the Masonic order. And when I say that, it's hard to imagine how much he gave to the order and still gives to the order. And I understood that here I was a Mason, but I was keeping the home fires burning, so to speak, in support of the activities that he was doing. And the Louis Jewel in many ways represents that, because the younger Mason, especially if the senior Mason is very accomplished and outgoing, is going to have to sacrifice a lot on the home front. I saw my grandfather a lot more than I saw my father. And it was, the strangest thing was that when my father usually flew into conventions, and when we attended for the class of 22, and I was driving down, I took my father. So it was the first time that he was driving to a convention. It was also the longest time that he and I spent together since he had taken me to Expo when I was a child. So we had 1 week in 1967 where he took me to Montreal and we attended Expo Montreal. And up until last year, that was the longest that I spent with my father. And the Lewis Jewel represents that in many ways. And so my father, he has his Lewis Jewel as he being the son of a Mason, and I have mine.
Outstanding.
Yes. Just over 100 years in the Masonic order between the three of us.
Congratulations.
Wow.
So we've all paid our dues, and in the same way, I know how much my grandfather meant to my father. We've talked about that. My father became the Grand Master of Ontario at a very early age. He is now the senior past Grand Master of all Masonic orders. And as I said, from the time I was born, my grandfather was blind. And I'll share this with you, but the election in terms of who would become the next Grand Master of Ontario was held back in '63 in Hamilton. And my father was there waiting to see whether he was going to get it or he was going to miss it. And during the meeting, before the meeting started, he had stepped out to take a break and get a breath of fresh air and just collect himself. And a bus pulled up. And off of the bus came this stately man of color, decked out, cane. And my father realized it was my grandfather. And he looked at me, he said, how did you get here? And he says, well, I took the bus down to Queen and Bathurst, and I asked somebody to wave the gray coach bus down so that I could board the bus. And then I asked the driver to drop me off here. And the reason he had gone to Hamilton was so that he could quickly stand up at the beginning of the meeting and nominate my father for the position of Grand Master. So,
As he should.
As you should.
not bad for a ornery old man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
that conviction in terms of whatever any of the Downses set their mind on and a goal that they decide is something that they want to do, rest assured, if it be in the support of any of my classmates, that they will have that tenacity available to them.
Nice. Question. I know that you recently had a street named after a family member. Now, was that your father or your grandfather's street you named after?
The street naming is after three Downses.
Okay.
One, Major Margaret Peggy Downs, who was the aide-de-camp at the Parliament buildings and legislature in Toronto, Ontario. So that's the capital of Ontario. And she was the aide-de-camp, if you understand that term, in terms of the organization of those facilities. And she would have acted under 5 premiers for the province of Ontario. She was the highest ranking Black female officer in Ontario, and from what I understand, Canada at the time. So for her, And then for Ray Downs, who is my dad's cousin. And Ray Downs was the first Canadian to receive a scholarship to Trinity College in England. And he was a pianist, jazz pianist. He played with Oscar Peterson. He played with Duke. He got around. He played in Montreal, New York, Toronto, and he was a wonder and a marvelous individual. And then the third individual would be Charles Arthur Downs, my father, for his societal contributions. And if you ever want to read a CV, if you can find a complete CV on that man, it is amazing. You know, the difficulty was when I spoke of him, people would say, well, you're talking about your father. And I said, I don't care if this man was my neighbor. If I was blessed to have him as my neighbor, I would tell you the same thing. Because I got a neighbor who, when I moved in, she met my father before she met me. And she just, you know, was cooing about that opportunity to, you know, in his regalia. But he was a magistrate, sat on the bench for, I think, 22 years. He was chairman of Doctors Hospital for 8 years. He sat on the Ontario Hospital Association board for a good long while. He was director for TEDCO, the Toronto Economic Development Corporation, which oversaw the lands for Toronto. He was the president of the Conservative Riding Association for downtown Toronto. His list goes on, aside from his Masonic accomplishments. So those are the three Downses that it's named after, and they don't name it to any one individual. So, but happy to have a street that will live long after I do.
That's cool.
Sorry if the answers are a little long, but I haven't spoken to anybody in a week.
Now, to me, that was outstanding. You know, to get the full explanation of it, that was definitely on point. Like I got a street named after my grandfather down in Anderson, Alabama, and I wish I could say have the full story in which you have, you know, to say that. So,
Yes, family is a beautiful thing. You know, let us never forget that, especially the Prince Hall family.
Yes, yes. So
Yes.
what are your future goals within the organization?
I'm not a man of aspirations. Basically, to live as the simple Mason that I am, to be of service to my fellow brothers, and to make a contribution in whatever way that I can in terms of the enlightenment of the brotherhood and society in general. That's kind of where my focus is right now. I have a sense of what is happening, and I'm trying to get that into a book so as to express the transition that we are facing, the dilemma that we are facing right now, and what I anticipate is coming over the next 25 years.
as far as the craft, you mean?
Yes. That's interesting. My perspective is grander than the craft. I see a transition within humanity, and we are seeing the symptoms of that portrayed in terms of the political front. In terms of the Masonic order, let me say that the recent signing that we saw of the different organizations coming together, both within the lodges North and South, within the lodges Black and White, the lodges within Canada. These signings, because this is all happening within the last short period, And the feeling that I'm getting is that the elders understand the challenges that are facing our society. And the most important thing for them is a unified Masonic order, regardless of where your temple is, what your color is, what your religion is that we all understand each other to be and have conviction to the grander society, both to the harmonious living for society in general, for humanity in general, but also we understand our obligation to the establishment and maintenance of government and the security and maintenance of a sound governance. There are things that are threatening the stability of that governance, and that is not something that is unique to the United States. It is not unique to Canada. It is something that we are seeing in a pervasive nature worldwide. And I think that their vision and their acumen calls them to prepare themselves and be steeled in terms of the challenges that we are going to face as Masons and as a society. And this goes to what I've been perceiving in terms of transition, that we are seeing a change within humanity, within its perspective, within its blunt sanity. And there is basically a cleaving that is going on within the population, where there are those who want to move towards the light, and there are those who want to move towards whatever dream image they hold within their mind. And anything that challenges that dream, that illusion, is a threat to them. And they will smite and do whatever is necessary, whether it be deny reality, perpetrate illusion, or do any of those things that we find as a true threat to our convictions. If I don't know if I'm being too thin or veiled here, if what I'm saying makes sense, then just give a nod.
Yeah, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. And thank you for your answer. It's appreciated.
Okay.
All right. Well, what do you want to see change or more of within the organization?
That given the society and where it's heading and the challenges that will be facing the Masonic order, I think that it's important that all Masons, wherever they reside, have to come to an understanding that it is time to set aside personal aspirations and self-interest and to really start to look at a bigger picture in terms of presenting a cohesive force within the Masonic order, working within the order to strengthen it, and to come up with ways to work together so that we can do as much as we can for the protection and perseverance of society in general. I can't imagine a time of challenge in the last 1,000 years within the Masonic order that compares with what I sense is coming forward for us now. And if individual Masons can see that it's not about the next office that I hold, it's not about how many pips that I have on my crown, it's not about me. It is truly about us and the maintenance of the order. Then that would be a beautiful thing in my heart.
So in other words, just do more of a living, actually living out the creed in which we have, because all those things are actually in the ritual.
Just saying, just saying. It's it. The one thing that I've come to understand is lessons may well be learned at the time, but there's always the next lesson, and the last lesson seems to be fleeting.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
So yeah, let's get back to brass tacks and let's keep our eye on the real ball here. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. That's why I love you both.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I love you too as a brother. I love you too as a brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love you in general, Downs. I mean, yeah, I said me and you. I don't know. We had a few interactions and we just became cool, and I'm definitely appreciate you. And I look forward to continue to communicate with you and vibe with you, and hopefully one day link back up and hang out with you.
I've been working at there's one thing, because we never got that grand list, the Google list with all of the information, and I've been working on moving all of those phone numbers into my contact list, moving all of those contacts into my email list, and it's a task for those people. And once I'm solidified in the phone calls, I'm good at writing, and I can send text messages and I can send emails, but I really prefer to be on a phone or to be face to face with an individual and to share thoughts and concerns in the moment as to what's going on. And I think that's where we really excel as brothers. So I hear you, Mark. Yeah, spending time together and commiserating and just talking shit is a good thing. Excuse my
definitely.
Excuse my
Okay.
All right. And if as Brother Lindsay knows, as he is the head chairman of the committee, we're working on that Google list and book and everything that you said. So hopefully we'll have that soon. But it was little snags here and there, but we definitely working on it. We'll have that for the class.
So far, from everything I can see, I'm amazed at what you have done. The maintenance of the of our meet group, just everything. It's amazing. You tech savvy, and you smoke my mind in terms of your awareness and utilization of all the tools.
You're doing our best, bro.
Doing a lovely job, brothers. Lovely job.
Thank you. Well, are there any classmate Alexander? Are there any questions that you want to ask? Classmate.
No, I think I'm good. I think he expressed a lot, and I think he's very clear. We have a good brothers can get a good impression of illustrious Downs through this interview, so we're good.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Brother Lindsay.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for taking the time out your day and doing this Zoom interview. All right. I'm going to stop recording.